Namaste and a hearty welcome to Soft Talk. Over the past few days, I talked about this unprecedented crisis that Nepal has been facing. I talked with different leading lights, subject experts. They include Sanjay Upadhyaya, international consultant who has worked for the United Nations. Upadhyaya is also a veteran journalist and the author of the book Backfoot in Nepal: How India Lost the Plot to China. Suresh Sharma, retired Brigadier General of the Nepali Army. Sharma has association with the APF Staff and Command College, Nepal Institute for Strategic Studies, and the Tribhuvan University. His scholarly interests include geopolitics, defense diplomacy, geostrategy, national security, etc. He is also a columnist. His works have been published in different national and international publications. Then comes Deepak Gujral, Associate Professor of Political Science at the Tribhuvan University. Associate Professor Gujral has academic interests in geopolitics, realistic geopolitics, South Asia and China, international relations. His academic works have been published in international journals. My conversation with these leading lights, I hope you watched those conversations. I hope they generated more light than the heat. That was the intention. That at a time when this ill prepared country, plagued by corruption, plagued by political instability, plagued by misrule, uh, at a time when this country is grappling with an unprecedented crisis. Here I read out the prescriptions of those distinguished guests. The performance of political parties represented in the parliament, the ruling party in particular, is below par. It has a very poor performance. In the times of an unprecedented crisis like this, the ruling party has let the people and the country down by opting for a split and indulging in this game of commission in the import of COVID-19 vaccines. The political parties, this is the second recommendation, the political parties must opt for a course correction if they want to avert a national disaster of sorts. In view of geostrategic games for global supremacy that are at play in this shrinking geostrategic space of Nepal. These political parties must rise to the occasion and move ahead by forging national consensus. Okay? The national consensus is the key word. That is the buzzword. That is the most important thing for now in the life of this country. And the third recommendation is to find a way out of this political mess, to find a way out of this political crisis, uh, the political parties must confess to the public their misdeeds. The political leaders, in particular, those that were in power during this phase, like uh, over 3 decades or so, particularly. Others are like many of them are dead and gone. The corruption they indulged in, uh, these political leaders that ruled during this 30 years or so in the life of this country after the change, the political change of the 1990s. Uh, they must confess to the public their misdeeds, the corruption they indulged in, and be ready to face maximum punishment for their immoral, unethical, and corrupt acts. Okay, this is a bitter pill. Then the fourth recommendation from the experts panel: the US, the United States, China, India, Western European countries, and Nepal's political parties must have roundtables. They must sit for these talks, all encompassing talks, because this prolonged national crisis in governance, this prolonged season of instability since at least the 1950s, it is not primarily the result of domestic discord alone. This crisis has been aggravated by due to conflicting interests of our superpower, hyperpower, regional power, and Western European interests also. In such fora, Nepal should be able to well articulate how these conflicting interests are weakening our national sovereignty, and it must be able to articulate, just be loud and clear, that it is unable, it cannot, it does not have the capacity to address, to make room for these conflicting concerns of rival powers, because these concerns come at the expense of this country and her people. The fifth recommendation, part of it is mine. This week, uh, in particular, the 3rd of Jesta 2078 BS, that was yesterday, that was on May 17, 2021. That date marks the 28th anniversary of the mysterious death or murder, whatever you call it, because it's shrouded in mystery, of General Secretary of the CPNUML, that is the ruling party of this day and age, the present ruling party, that is the General Secretary of the CPNUML, Madan Bhandari, and the Chief of the Organization Department of the CPNUML died exactly 28 years ago in a very suspicious road accident at Dasdunga, that is in Dhabing. I think that is in Chitwan district. 28 years ago on this date, yesterday, that was May 17, 2021. Yesterday marks the 28th death anniversary of the two leaders, distinguished leaders of the CPNUML, General Secretary Madan Bhandari and Jibraj Asrit, who was the chief of the CPN-UML's organization department. Taking this tragic accident of the two leftist luminaries as a rallying cry, taking this death of the two leaders as a rallying cry of the two leaders, Madan Bhandari was called as Marks of Nepal. That was the coinage of this Newsweek published at that time. Uh, Taking the death of the two leaders as a rallying cry, the CPN-UML came to power in the 1990s. But the party did almost nothing when it came to unraveling the mystery behind that death. It did nothing when it came to bringing the plotters, just conducting a fair probe and bringing the truth to the public. Coincidentally, the same party is in power now. The CPN-UML, the ruling party of the present, should do its utmost, conduct a fair investigation into the Das Tunga accident, and it should be able to just bring the truth to the public. We need a closure of that accident, whether it was an accident, whether it was a premeditated murder. We should just the nation has the right to know, the people have the right to know the truth. It should be noted here that assassinations of political figures, whether it is of US President, then US President John F. Kennedy, or of any other political figure worth his or her name. Such assassinations, the story behind those assassinations, who were behind those dastardly crimes, they hardly the truth behind those assassinations hardly come to light. That is the observation. They are quite hard to unravel, whether it's the case of John F. Kennedy, the shooting death of John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas, or of like any other political leader worth his or her name. But the CPN UML does not seem to have done enough even to conduct a serious investigation into the Das Tunga incident that killed Madan Bhandari and Jibraj Ashrit, the two charismatic leftist leaders. The right time for investigation is now. The right time for investigation, a serious investigation into that incident is now. How about also launching a serious investigation into the June 2001 Royal Massacre? This massacre just on June 2001, the then King Birendra Shah and his entire family was exterminated. How about conducting a fair probe, an impartial investigation into the Royal Massacre also, and making the findings public? How about declassifying all the documents about these very unfortunate incidents that happened in very, very suspicious circumstances? One wonders if there are skeletons in the cupboard. One wonders if there are uncomfortable truths that are preventing fair investigations, impartial investigations into these cases, these high profile cases. Uh, uh, you must have noted that democracies, including mainly the United States, declassifies certain documents, official documents, in defense of the people's right to know, that kind of thing. Unless it hampers national security, unless it hampers national interest, uh, countries declassify. If declassifying, if just unveiling documents, official documents, does not hamper national security, national interest, then some countries also declassify those documents. The United States often does that. How about declassifying documents, uh, official papers that just shed light on those incidents and many other like incidents that have affected this country profoundly. I hope the powers that be are listening. I hope the leaders, the ruling party, the leading lights of the ruling party are listening to this presentation and will act accordingly. One wonders, will the Nepali nation and the people somehow come to know, will they somehow be able to know about these incidents shrouded in mystery? Will the Nepali state ever bother to just conduct serious probes and make the findings public in the interest of the people's right to know? With this open question, I wrap up this edition of Soft Talk. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.